Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And it's twitter.com/thenote to stay updated all day long. Let us know what you think.
Get us started. What is your top line today?
TARP tax. The White House tries to stay one step ahead of the news by announcing that it will include in this budget a new levy, a new tax on big financial institutions. At this point, the concept is ahead of any of the specifics, David, but this is another example of the White House trying to stay on top of the populist outrage that we've seen out there. This is bonus season. This is bonus week. So now to announce, apparently to the surprise of a lot of these firms, that there'll likely be a new tax for them to deal with. Kind of interesting.
This is a tax they might actually be able to swallow. They're very glad it's not the Great Britain form of taxing the bonuses. Actually, that could drive a lot of their talent away, and that was their biggest concern. But you're right. This is purely a political calculation to try to get ahead of that populist rage. Republicans retreat. Yes, you just heard President Obama once again giving Harry Reid a pass on his controversial comments. But now we have Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, Senator John McCain, Senator Coburn, Senator Ensign, all refusing to call for Reid's resignation as leader. This, of course, as Russ Feingold, the Democrat from Wisconsin, continues to play a thorn in the Democrat side. He says he's not sure yet if Reid should step down or not, which of course means he'll have to be wooed by the majority leader.
Exactly. You get your phone calls returned when you say things like this. Harry Reid, it looks like he's going to survive this. The Republicans do seem to be stepping on the brakes just a little bit. They know not to press it as hard as they have in the past. It's out there. This is damaging. They know that Harry Reid's real problem is going to be in the fall. RIP Saved or Created. We have sad news to report to you today on Top Line that everyone's favorite metric, the saved or created job, has passed away. It is no longer in use. It was just under 1 year old, David, and it's sad to see it go.
Just a bit of sarcasm.
Maybe a little bit. Yes.
Just a touch.
Now we get to talk about jobs funded by stimulus money, which has the benefit of actually meaning something, as opposed to the saved or created jobs. This was just a minor embarrassment for the White House, and they're backing away.
Rick, when this news came out yesterday, there's nobody on earth who cared more about this term saved or created than you did, and I'm glad your valiant effort
Moment of silence
prevailed. Yes, okay. Start spreading the news. That's the famous Sinatra lyric, right? Well, the president has a double-barreled Empire State problem. He cannot keep Harold Ford on the sidelines of a Senate primary, and he can't seem to push David Patterson there in the gubernatorial race. This is a huge headache now in New York on both sides. Patterson is saying, listen, you're going to see my fundraising report this week, and it has enough for a full-on candidacy. A hint to Andrew Cuomo. He's here to stay, is what Patterson's saying. Harold Ford's still flirting with this idea that he's going to take on Kirsten Gillibrand, even though Robert Gibbs said yesterday from the podium they're in the race for Kirsten Gillibrand at the White House.
And a lot of folks in New York and beyond wondering about the sway of the White House if you're not able to clear the field in these two high-profile instances.
Unbelievable. We are going to begin with our special guest, Reverend Jim Wallace. He is the founder and president of Sojourners, a large Christian progressive Christian network, and also the author of this new book, Rediscovering Values on Wall Street, Main Street, and Your Street, a moral compass for the new economy. Reverend Wallace, thank you very much for being here.
Great to be
appreciate
here.
it. And in fact, let's begin with this idea. In an economy like this, is your sense, and I know that you're on the more progressive side of the politics, but irrespective of politics, is your sense overall that people turn to faith more in an economic downturn like the one we're experiencing?
Well, first, I'm sorry there's no chapter in the book on airport security, Tiger Woods, or Harry Reid's eloquence.
We allow you on anyway.
But I think what I'm saying is underneath the economic crisis, there's a values crisis going on. So we've had these town meetings now in Detroit, New York for the last couple of days. And I think Americans are ready for a conversation about values. It's not just about faith. It's anybody who cares about values. Because religion has no monopoly on morality. But underneath this crisis is a serious values question. So the politicians want to say, when will the crisis end? I'm saying it's the wrong question. How will the crisis change us is the better question.
And do you see that playing out in the public debate at all? I mean, are you seeing aspects of it where we're talking about the broader value questions as opposed to the immediacy of a crisis?
You mean the public debate where people actually talk, or the media coverage of it?
Well, the public debate where people actually do things, where there's action on Capitol Hill, there's action in Congress to try to do...
On the coldest day of the year so far after the holidays in Detroit, my hometown, we launched the book in Detroit, probably the worst book city in the country. Simon Schuster gave away free books in Detroit. We had 500 people turn up. Leaders, community organizers, economists, and even business people. And it was a great conversation. And Riverside Church in New York, the same thing. So I think the country is wanting to have this conversation. You mentioned populist rage. How about moral indignation. I mean, I was on the steps of the Treasury building before Christmas with some people being foreclosed upon. And the woman who spoke before me, she started crying. You know, her mortgage is now a time bomb. And you want to, in a religious sense, we extended grace to these big banks on Wall Street. We're worried about meltdown. Mm-hmm. They're extending no grace to the people who are being foreclosed upon.
So do you think that the country can come back from this recession economically, but that we don't sort of return to whole until we restore ourselves morally? Do you not think do you see can you see a place where our society returns from this recession without the moral structure coming along with it?
I think it'd be a wasted opportunity because a crisis gives you a chance to rethink and reset. And so if we go back to business as usual, all the pain and suffering in my hometown of Detroit and lots of places will have been in vain. But the way to make this redemptive is to learn from it. And so I think, you know, the book talks about the need for a moral compass for the new economy. So there are some new maxims that have taken us over, like greed is good, it's all about me, and I want it now. Those kind of maxims destroy economies, cultures, families, and souls. Now, I counterpose to those things some of our older virtues and values like enough is enough. We're in this together. Or I love the Native American notion that you evaluate decisions today by their impact on the 7th generation out. Now, that would change things. So I talk about the need for new habits of the heart. And this bad morality play of banks, bailouts, and bonuses, I think a lot of us want to change the script about that. So my wife and I just fired Bank of America. When I learned that Bank of America, in their bonuses and their post-salary compensation, there's enough money there to have resolved this foreclosure crisis for 2 million families, and they've modified the loans on 100 people so far. Well, we fired them. We moved our bank, our money, our little account, to a local bank in the community. Now there's a whole mini movement going on. The Methodists have $15 billion in pension funds. If they move that, Wall Street might pay attention.
See some
So
reaction.
they say they're too big to fail. I say make them smaller.
Have you seen, I'm curious as your thoughts on the healthcare debate, have you seen the moral argument play out as you expected it would or to its full extent, or do you feel like we've been sidetracked on other things?
Well, the moral argument is a very central one for the faith community, coverage of all the people.
Right.
You know, 42,000 people by the medical journals died last year because of lack of health coverage. So this was a big issue for us. But, you know, as you two know better than most, Washington, D.C. is wired to block change. So what I say in the book is the only thing that makes change happen long term is social movements that really change the politics. Washington, Barack Obama said when he was elected, I'll need the wind of a movement behind my back to accomplish anything. I wrote him a note that day. It said, and maybe one in front of you too, to clear the path and pull you along sometimes when necessary.
Blocker.
This book, yeah, or running interference maybe, but then pulling the White House along. So this book is about how we can look at our values here on Wall Street, holding them accountable, but also on Main Street and our streets.
Very quickly before we let you go, can you point to a period in American history where you thought we as a culture were at our moral high point?
Well, I look back to the times when religion was not known just for debates on gay marriage, but for animating the civil rights movement, or the abolitionist cause, or women's suffrage, social movements that had a moral core. So this book is not just written to the faith community, but people who care about bringing some moral values back to this conversation again. This is really an opportunity to reset ourselves and find a moral compass for a new economy. So I think it's a Wall Street question, but we got to look in the mirror. Wealth doesn't trickle down, but bad values have.
Reverend Jim Wallace, good luck on the book. Thank you very much for being here.
Great
We
to be here.
appreciate it.